Welcome to this tutorial on mastering the two-point tool, the Bezier tool, the pen tool, and the B-spline tool in CorelDRAW. We will start with the two-point tool. This icon, hiding behind the black triangle of the drawing tools, is for the two-point line tool. When you choose the two-point line tool, by clicking on its icon under the Drawing Tools section in your Tools bar, you will notice a change in the Properties bar. In the Properties bar for the two-point tool, you will see three icons that I want to draw your attention to. The first is for a two-point line. The second icon is for the perpendicular two-point line. And the last one there is for the tangential two-point line. You will select one of these icons depending on the type of two-point line you want to draw. With the two-point line tool, you can draw straight lines, horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. But what the two-point line tool is really good for is drawing lines perpendicular to one or more objects, as well as drawing lines that are tangent to one or more objects. With the two-point line tool selected, click on the two-point line icon up in the Properties bar. To draw a straight line, click and hold the left mouse button at the start point and drag the mouse horizontally to where you would like to end the line. Release the mouse button to complete the line. Of course, the same procedure applies for drawing vertical or diagonal lines. Holding down the Control key while drawing the line will keep the line completely horizontal or vertical. Using the Control key, you can also draw lines at a fixed constrained angle. The default for the constraint angle is 15 degrees. The setting of the constraint angle can be changed by accessing the Options panel. To draw a perpendicular line, with the two-point line tool icon in the Drawing Tools section selected, click on this icon for perpendicular two-point line. Hover your mouse around the center of the drawing until you see the word Center show next to your cursor. Click and hold the left mouse button and drag the mouse, drawing a line towards the next drawing. Hover over the center of this drawing until you see the word Center show next to your cursor. Release your left mouse button to complete this perpendicular line. If you want to draw a perpendicular line starting from the first drawing to the second drawing and continue on to the third drawing, then follow these steps. Hover your mouse over the center of the drawing until you see the word Center show next to your cursor. Click and hold the left mouse button and drag the mouse, drawing a line towards the second drawing. Hover over the center of the second drawing until you see the word Center show. At this point, without releasing the left mouse button, press and hold the Control key. Continue extending the line until you reach the center of the third drawing. Hover to the point where the word Center appears next to your cursor. Release the left mouse button as well as the Control key. To draw a tangent line, with the two-point line tool selected, click on the third icon for tangential two-point line up in the Properties bar. Hover your mouse over the top edge of the drawing until you see the word Quadrant show next to your cursor. Click and hold the left mouse button and drag the mouse, drawing a line towards the next drawing. Hover over the top edge of this drawing until you see the word Quadrant show next to your cursor. Release your left mouse button to complete this tangent line. If you want to draw a tangent line starting from the first drawing to the second drawing and continue on to the third drawing, then follow these steps. Hover your mouse over the edge of the drawing until you see the word Quadrant show next to your cursor. Click and hold the left mouse button and drag the mouse, drawing a line towards the second drawing. Hover over the edge of the second drawing until you see the word Quadrant show. At this point, without releasing the left mouse button, press and hold the Control key. Continue extending the line until you reach the edge of the third drawing. Hover to the point where the word quadrant appears next to your cursor. Release the left mouse button as well as the control key. Now the Bezier tool. This is the Bezier tool icon under the drawing tools. Click on it to select it. To draw a straight line, click and release the left mouse button at the point where you would like to start your line. Move the cursor to the point where you would like the end point of this line segment. Click and release the left mouse button. Press the space bar to disengage your cursor from the canvas. To draw a curved line, click and release the left mouse button at the start point. Move the cursor to the desired end point. Here, click and hold the left mouse button. Start dragging the mouse up or down, and as soon as the mouse moves, you will see the control handles pop up. Move the mouse around, left and right, up and down, and observe the change in the curved line as you do so. When you get the curve to the desired shape, simply release the left mouse button. If you do not want to add any more line segments to this line, simply press the space bar to separate the Bezier tool's link to this line segment. To add a curved line segment to a straight line segment, start the straight line segment by a click and release of the left mouse button at the start point. Move the cursor to the desired end point and click and release the left mouse button. Now, to add a curved line segment here, move the cursor to where you would like to end the curved line segment. Left-click and hold the mouse button and move the control handles around to form the curved line you want to draw. Release the mouse button to complete the curved line. Let's say you have decided to add another curved line segment at the end of this curved line segment. In that case, move the cursor to where you would like to end this curved line segment. And once again, click and hold the left mouse button. Drag the controls to form the curve that you are wanting to draw. Release the left mouse button. If you wanted to add a straight line segment at the end of this curved line, or any curved line, then double-click and release the left mouse button on the end point of the curved line. Move the cursor to the intended end point of this straight line segment and click once and release the left mouse button. Press the space bar to break the cursor link to this drawing. You can also draw a curved line at preset angles. Click and release the left mouse button at the start point. Move the cursor over to the desired end point and left-click and hold the mouse button. Now press the control key and drag the control handles around. You will notice the curve snap at certain intervals. Release the left mouse button and the control key when you get the desired angle. The preset constrain angle can be altered from the options panel, as discussed in our previous tutorials. The Bezier tool lets you draw lines one segment at a time by placing each node precisely where you want and allows you to control the shape of each curved segment you draw. Drawing with the pen tool. Click on this icon for the pen tool under the drawing tools section. When using the pen tool, you can preview the line you are drawing by enabling the preview mode. Up in the properties bar for the pen tool, this is the preview mode icon. Click on it to enable the preview mode. This next icon is for automatically adding or deleting nodes. Click on it to enable it. Like the Bezier tool, the pen tool also lets you draw lines one segment at a time by placing each node precisely where you want and allows you to control the shape of each curved segment you draw. When the preview mode has been enabled, the pen tool lets you preview the line segments you are drawing. To draw a curved line segment, click and release the left mouse button at the start point. Move the mouse to the intended end point of this segment. Left-click and hold and drag the control handles to form the curve that you want to draw. Release the mouse button when done. Press the space bar to disengage the cursor from the canvas. To draw a straight line segment, click at the start point of your segment. Move the cursor to the intended end point and double-click to end this segment. You can add as many segments as you want. And you can switch from drawing a straight line to a curved line, and vice versa, as segments of the same line. Let us draw a straight line segment, and then add another straight line segment to it. Click and release the left mouse button at the start point. Move the mouse to the intended end point of the straight line segment and left-click once. Move the mouse to the intended end point of the second straight line segment and double-click to complete this segment and release the cursor from the canvas. Let us draw a straight line segment and then add a curved line segment to it. Click and release the left mouse button at the start point. Move the mouse to the intended end point of the straight line segment and left-click once. Move the mouse to the intended end point of this curved line segment. Click and hold the left mouse button and move the mouse to make the control handles visible. Move the control handle around to get the curved shape to what you want. Release the left mouse button when done. Press the space bar to disengage the cursor from the canvas. If you want to draw a straight line segment after a curved line segment, it can require one extra step to make that come true. I will show you two examples. Left-click the mouse button at the start point for your curved line. Move the mouse to where you want to end this curved line. And left-click and hold. Move the mouse and grab the control handles to complete this segment. Release the left mouse button. To draw a straight line segment that heads in the same direction as the ending part of the curved segment, simply move the mouse to the end point for your segment and double-click and release the left mouse button. This completes the segment and disengages the cursor from the canvas. But if you were to add a straight line segment that did not have the same direction as the ending portion of the curved line segment, the steps required will change a bit. Repeating the steps listed above, draw the curved line segment. After you have used the control handles to shape your curved line, release the left mouse button. Now move the cursor to the intended end point for the straight line segment, double left-click, and release the left mouse button. This completes the second segment and disengages the cursor from the canvas. But as you notice, it is not a straight line segment as we intended. Observe that this segment started in the direction the previous curved segment was heading and then curved to change its direction towards the endpoint you marked. Now click on the Shape tool icon to select it or press F10 to select it. The icons in the Properties bar change due to your tool selection. Click on this node to select it. This node connects the two segments. The Properties bar up top highlights the options available to you to manipulate this segment. Click on this icon for a cusp node. Now grab the control handle that is pointing upwards and pull it down until it lies on top of the blue preview line of this segment. Release your mouse button and press the space bar to disengage the cursor. You can add or delete nodes to a line. Draw a straight line. Now, with the pen tool active, hover your mouse over this line. You will see a plus sign show up next to the pen nib. This shows that your automatic add or delete node mode is enabled. Left-click once to add a node. Move the mouse a bit to the right or left of this node and add another node. Then add a couple more. By doing this, you have taken a one-segment line and divided it into a multi-segment line. These segments are connected to each other via these nodes. Using the Shape tool, we can move these nodes around to reshape our line. Select the Shape tool by clicking on its icon or pressing the F10 key. Left-click on a node and hold the left mouse button and drag the node to the new position. Release the mouse button when done. Similarly, with the pen tool selected, if you move the cursor over an existing node, a minus sign shows up next to the pen nib. Left-click once to remove that node. Let us have a look at the B-spline tool. This is the icon for the B-spline tool under the drawing tools. Click on it to select it. B-splines are usually smooth, continuous curved lines. You can shape a curve using control points to draw a B-spline. When using the B-spline tool, you draw a B-spline by setting control points for the line. To draw a B-spline, create the first control point by left-click and release of the mouse button at the start point. Move the cursor to the next point on your intended B-spline. Left-click to create the next control point and release the mouse button. Move the mouse in the opposite direction to pick your next spot. Do this as many times as you need to. When you arrive at the intended end point, simply double-click to create the last control point and end the B-spline. This will disengage your cursor from the canvas. Now select the Shape tool, F10, and click on the B-spline you just drew. The blue squares that pop up are the control points. Notice that the control points at the end of this line are placed right on the line. These are the clamped control points. The remaining, as you notice, are floating above or below the B-spline. Hence, these are your floating control points. With your shaping tool selected, you can click on any control point and move it around to your desired position. This is true for the clamped control points as well as the floating control points. You can select more than one control point and move them collectively. With the Shape tool selected, left-click on one control point. Then hold the Shift key down and click on all the points you want to select. Release the Shift key as well as the left mouse key when done. Now use the Shape tool to move these selected control points to their new location. Clamped control points help you create a cusp or a straight line within the B-spline. To convert a control point from a floating control point to a clamped control point, select the control point with the Shape tool. Up in the Properties bar, this icon is for a clamped control point. And this here is for a floating control point. Click on the clamped control point icon and see your selected control point change from floating to clamped. If, and only if, a clamped control point lies between the two endpoints, can it be changed to a floating control point. Select a clamped control point that is situated between the two endpoints and click on the floating control point icon up in the Properties bar. You will notice it change into a floating control point. In order to help you edit and shape your B-spline, you can add nodes at any point that will help you achieve the desired results. Click on a spot on the B-spline where you want to add a node. Up in the Properties bar you will see a green icon with a plus sign. Click on it to add a node. You can add as many nodes you need to get the perfect shape you are looking for. These nodes can be manipulated to achieve the results you seek. Similarly, you can delete an unwanted node by selecting it with the Shape tool and clicking on this red icon with a minus sign up in the Properties bar. Click on it and the selected node is no more. One last point before we conclude this tutorial. If you select one of the clamped control points on either end of a B-spline and add a segment, thus extending your B-spline, the clamped control point at that end will automatically change to a floating control point. Draw a B-spline and double-click to end the line. And disengage your cursor. Press F10 to select the Shape tool and click on the line. you will notice that the end control points are clamped. Switch back to the B-spline tool and hover the cursor over one end point until you see the bent arrow. Left-click and release the mouse button. Move your mouse to a new spot and double-click to end the line and disengage your cursor. Press F10 to select the Shape tool, and you will notice that this node, which was previously clamped, is now a floating control point. That concludes our tutorial on the 2-point tool, the Bezier tool, the Pen tool, and the B-spline tool. Again, I stress that you take your time practicing and working with these tools. Pick some shapes that will challenge you. Doing so will improve your skills tremendously. For the next tutorial on the 3-point curve tool and the Smart Drawing tool, please access Mastering 3-point curve tool and the Smart Drawing tool in CorelDRAW or click on the link provided below in the description of this video. To access any of the tutorials that were previously published, please click on the links provided below in the description of this tutorial.